So one of my favorite game consoles of all time is the N64. Coming off the Sega Genesis, the N64 was the next system I got, and it was just mind-blowing with games like Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64. This thing was just a powerhouse, and to see all these polygons and 3D sort of open worlds was just an amazing experience for me at the time. The N64 also brought about 4-player compatibility, which made games like GoldenEye 007 and WWF No Mercy timeless classics because 4 players could play at once, which quickly became the industry standard. But for all the good the N64 had, there was a few drawbacks, and a couple of them actually affected games. You see, the N64 used cartridges, and the industry was moving towards CDs at this time, so it kind of affected the N64's library. If you compare the PlayStation 1's library to the N64's, it's a fraction of what the PlayStation 1 got. So you would think that with all the N64 games that came out, it would be hard to kind of find hidden gems in the library because everyone kind of knows about all the games. But I think there's some games that aren't talked about enough. I think there's some games that flew under the radar, or maybe just some games where you look at it and you're like, it's not for me, but you should actually pick them up. So in this video, we're going to look at some N64 hidden gems. Let's see what I got for you guys. The N64 was full of racing games, with Mario Kart 64 and Diddy Kong Racing being the two most popular ones that come to mind. Rare actually made another racing game though, Mickey's Speedway USA, and it's pretty damn good. A kart racer similar to Mario Kart, but with the gameplay mechanics and styling like Diddy Kong Racing, Mickey's Speedway USA was a fun and satisfying racers for those who had played the hell out of Diddy Kong and Mario Kart. Although the character selection was a bit lacking, Mickey's Speedway USA is a solid racer that N64 owners should check out. The Strike series was a trilogy on the Super Nintendo and Genesis, but the N64 actually saw a version with Nuclear Strike 64. Nuclear Strike 64 plays kind of like a badass action movie, with a heavy emphasis on blowing things up from a variety of aircraft. The N64 version uses the expansion pack, which allows for higher resolution textures, and the game even features some voice speech, which is a bit of a rarity for the cartridge-based console. If you like a ton of action and blowing stuff up, Nuclear Strike 64 is a game to keep an eye out for. Speaking of a ton of action and blowing stuff up, Blast Cores was another gem on the N64 that not enough people talk about. Another Rare developed game, Blast Cores was unique in the fact that destruction is not just encouraged, but necessary in order to stop a nuke from blowing things up. Because I guess destroying things will stop that nuke from blowing up more things. Silly plot aside, Blast Core has a ton of vehicles at your disposal, each with unique abilities. Blast Core is one of the most unique games of all time and is definitely worth checking out. Fighting games may have been a bit limited on the N64, but one of the best ones is one that nobody talks about, Flying Dragon. Arcades were heating up with 3D fighters being a hot topic, but 2D fighters were still a mainstay with games like Street Fighter. Flying Dragon did what no other game has done, even to this day though. Not only was the game a 2D fighter with story mode and level progression, but also had a 3D fighting mode as well, and actually had some different characters than the 2D mode did. Characters that were in the 2D mode that made the jump to the 3D mode were redone visually as well. While not the best fighting game ever, the uniqueness of having two distinct fighting styles on one cartridge makes Flying Dragon a true hidden gem for the N64. The PS1 had an amazing game called Metal Gear Solid, and a game called Winback was released on the N64 that many at the time of the release considered to be a poor man's Metal Gear. In actuality, in retrospect though, Winback was actually a very solid game that introduced a mechanic that has become a staple in modern gaming: cover-based shooting. Winback may look and play a little bit dated, but the gameplay mechanics make it a worthwhile game to check out on the N64. The N64 was home to a ton of platformer games, with highlights including Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. Chameleon Twist is a lesser known platformer for the N64, but is a pretty solid game in its own right. Chameleon Twist uses an interesting mechanic, using a tongue to get around from place to place and attack enemies. The game is a bit on the short side, and some of the textures are pretty low resolution, but Chameleon Twist is a cheap and welcome addition to N64 platform lovers' libraries. Treasure is one of the most beloved developers of all time, with the amazing Gunstar Heroes on the Genesis, and Treasure created an amazing 2D platformer on the N64, Mischief Makers. A highly stylized 2D action platformer, Mischief Makers oozes a charm and style that was just unmatched at the time. With a ton of levels and gameplay variations ranging from action-based to some levels being puzzle-based, Mischief Makers has the charm, styling, and solid gameplay mechanics that make it a true hidden gem on the N64. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine is a game I did a full review on, but before getting into the last hidden gem, I did want to mention it just briefly. Not only a hidden gem, Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine is one of the best games on the N64, period. Check out my full review of it to get all the details. The final hidden gem is a precursor to Grand Theft Auto 3. No, seriously. The team that developed the game went on to form Rockstar Games, and the early influences of Grand Theft Auto 3 can actually be seen in this game, Body Harvest. Body Harvest plays out like a 60s sci-fi movie and has you placed in open world settings to stop an alien invasion. The player has the ability to enter any building, go anywhere, and drive any vehicle that is found. With lots of secrets, fun, alien blasting gameplay, Body Harvest is one of my favorite games on the N64 and definitely deserves to be more well known. And that is a look at some N64 hidden gems. There's a lot more hidden gems on the system too, but these are the ones that kind of just stuck out to me. I'm not saying these are perfect games or excellent games, but they're fun, they can be acquired for a pretty low price on most of them, and they're definitely games you should check out if you're an N64 fan and you like the system. So let me know in the comment section below if I missed any games in your opinion, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video to this one day as well. Thank you for checking this video out. Make sure you like it. Leave me your comments down below if you've played any of these games and what you think about them, or if you plan to pick them up, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.